And Nigeria's new Minister of Agriculture and Rural Development, Sabo Nanono, a few days ago, assumed duty with the motive to reposition the sector. During his remarks, the minister was quoted to have said hunger in Nigeria cannot be compared to what's obtained in other countries. While he is posed on moving the sector to the next level, Nigerians are waiting to see how soon this will become a reality. And now, African farmer Mogaji, the chairman Agric and Agro-Allied Group, joins us in the studio to look at the task ahead of the new minister. Welcome, Mr. Mogaji.
Thank you for having me.
African farmer, by the way, I should say. Now, what are your thoughts? Should we begin from the last thing you heard? The minister says there is no the hunger in Nigeria cannot be compared to what he has seen in other countries. In fact, he mentioned India when he was in India in 1973. What are your thoughts on that?
I have a challenge with that statement coming from the new minister. I was in India in January and March, and yes, hunger is real there. But I'm not sure the presidency or the president brought him in that position to be looking back 1973. He should be looking at places like Rwanda that has moved forward in a short period. We should be comparing ourselves with people who have moved forward, not people who are behind. And when you talk about food security and the food systems, even though there's a lot of hunger in India, India is still faring better in terms of the productivity. They are still the largest exporters of a lot of things. So I don't think the minister should start with that kind of conversation. He should just tell us what he plans to do and how he wants to do it.
Okay, saying what he plans to do and how he wants to do it. Are you impressed by his pedigree, himself, who he is, and what he's achieved?
Well, personally, I have reservations, but that does not mean that he will not perform. But the challenge is agric business or the agric space. They need to pay attention to it like the medical industry. It's very vast, and rather unfortunate, there are a lot of, you can't play around with technology a lot in terms of monitoring and evaluation, because there are a lot of the networks that you will connect, you will want to leverage digital on or technology on, the infrastructure is not readily available. So it's a banker from what I read. And the last involvement in core agriculture was like 2006 or 2007, or 2008, a couple of years ago. But I still give him that benefit of doubt that he should be able to perform. However, age is not on his side also, he's 73. So we would have expected someone younger, because you need to move, you need a lot of energy. But that does not mean he will still not perform. So we're waiting.
Okay, we're waiting. So what are your thoughts on the past 4 years, Mr. President's administration, his impact on the agric sector?
Well, the president actually meant well. The presidency also means well. And I would say they've done a lot to improve the sector. Well, especially through the CBN. And I give kudos to the CBN governor. Why? Because that's the first time we're seeing CBN governor moving out of office to actually visit farms. So which you would really give the presidency for that choice of person, because you used to have the CBN governor's seat, and now in the last 4 years we've had more of a willing CBN, to really filter and monitor. And so they put in a lot of systems and infrastructure in place, but we didn't have the ministry pull their weight like the CBN has done. Before, the story used to be that they didn't have enough money, they didn't have incentives, and they didn't have CBN really pushing. So CBN is really pushing, but the ministry did not match it. So, but yes, the president has really tried. I'm a living witness of many farmers, rural farmers, who actually got support, and small and medium scale, though not as many would have expected, but better than before. So I really commend the president for that, and I hope that this next 4 years we'll be able to really touch and feel food security as intended.
Okay, having said that, you mentioned about the age of the new minister, you know, him being 73, and you talked about he needs to move around and you need energy. Now, what's the level of participation of young people in agric sector, especially in our country? Yes,
we have a lot of youths involved in agriculture, but when you check it vis-a-vis the number of youths, it's not anything to write home about. However, we're finding a lot of educated youths, graduates, undergraduates, paying attention and getting involved in agriculture now. But, you know, when you say there's zeal without knowledge, so they are wasting resources. So I would look at a ministry that will focus on them in making structures available that they can make information, coaching, and mentoring available to that youth. But to the rural youth, they are running away. And we need more rural youths to be engaged in production. So we have quite a lot of private sector professionals, investors, who have put money in value addition, which is processing, but they're not having enough input as raw materials. So we basically need the rural youths to produce, and we need the urban youths to do value addition and marketing. So production, we need to scale production massively. Not just scale, we need productivity and we need efficiency.
So there should be a merge of the young rural youth and the urban youth. Now, having said that, there are arguments also that agriculture is not quite attractive. What do you think the government should do, especially for young people, to encourage them to say, you know what, venture into this and it will be worth your time?
There's a language that the African youths, not just Nigerian, because I play around West Africa and some North Africa, show them the money. Yes, there's been the values have challenges now. It's only money. So show them what they need to do, put the structure for them to leverage, and the average youth would, you know, plunge into it. So show them the money. Any other thing is stories. Show them you do 1, 2, 3 in these locations. Take, for instance, we're approaching irrigation, dry season time. You tell them that these locations are available, these facilities have been made available. If you invest your time and follow these instructions, you are able to make 1 million, 2 million, 3 million with this capital, and put it, and they will rush at it. So we need to just show them the money, no story, or show them the value chain of exports, because they're looking at either dollar or show them the naira. Anything outside that, they are not interested.
Okay, now that we're talking about money, how about the access? Speak to me about access to finance. So some of them may not have enough to start up, or, you know, how about the access
now,
to finance?
access to money is getting better.
Is it?
Yes. So from private sector, there are many companies that have sprang up that support farmers in one way or the other. And at least I know about 10 of those, you know, that they're not taking money from government. So they even need more people to come on board, because the private sector professionals are even putting money in those private sector agri businesses to be able to lend to farmers. And I can tell you this, the CBN is really working. Case in store last year in Gombe, and even early this year, like the development finance, you know, tried to make sure that all documentations for the farmer was even 1 month earlier than what the head office gave to them. So you have the CBN really working. We only need a proactive Ministry of Youth, a proactive Ministry of Agriculture, and a proactive Ministry of Water Resources. And that's when we will be able to say that the youths are involved, funds are released. If we have a recurring issue of tomatoes being expensive between April and July next year, then we can say that we can put a question mark on all these interventions and activities. Because for 5 years now, we've been having it for about 12 years, but the last minister went to Spain, you know, really where we think he shouldn't have gone to Spain, he should have gone to Egypt. Egypt is one of the first five or six major exporters of tomatoes in the world. We have Kenya, we have India. You know, they need to have gone to places where we have similar climates. So If we're having tomato expensive across the country, then, you know, we would question the strategy that the ministry and the presidency is embracing. But I have high hopes that many people will make money in the next 4 years.
That's good news there. Now, African farmer, you've been in this whole farming thing for a long while now. Yeah. This new minister is here to work, hopefully. Now, what are the key areas you think, as someone who's got experience, first-hand experience, he should focus and should be his priority for the agri sector?
There is a word the minister needs to embrace. It's called leverage. What can we leverage on? What do we have the comparative advantage for? We have, if he's talking about crops, he should look at maize, he should look at cassava, you should look at yams, the things that are wasting across Nigeria. Processing, adding value and exporting is going to be major. It needs to play around working with youths. It's very crucial because we're not having enough youths, and it needs to work with cooperatives. And I don't mean the rural cooperatives. Okay. I mean the urban cooperatives, cooperatives of multinationals. They have funding, they have network. It needs to move out of the government space to really show the private sector that we are ready. The private sector has been primed, they want to get involved, but they are not seeing a ministry that is proactive. So it needs to get its SAs right, special advisors right, to make sure that they are engaging the people. They need to have like quarterly communications, as in, you know, in like Lagos State, they do quarterly security meetings. He needs to be available to the private sector more than the government. And you will find out that this new food security would actually be affected by the private sector. But the private sector just needs to know that this man is serious, he pays attention to us. And I'm sure the man really doesn't have a lot of work to do. All the documents he will ever need, and I use the word ever need, is already in a file somewhere. Dr. Adeshino is extremely good at this documentation. So the documents are there. The last minister reviewed it. Adamu Bello, under President Obasanjo, they all have all these documents that have been reviewed in the last like 10 years. He just needs to pick them up and decide to implement. And he needs to focus. He can't solve everything. If he picks maize, maize will take care of livestock. So he just needs to say, let me pick 2 or 3 items and scale up. But we need extension agents, which he needs to talk to NYSC to co-opt a lot of them in. His job is easy, as far as I'm concerned, because the documents are there. And the Ministry of Agriculture has one of the best exposed and experienced staffs. So it's now a decision where I see, and many people shy away from this conversation, there is the minister and there is the ministry. The ministry can make the minister fail because he has to sell his idea to them, or else they will just work with him and he will be dishing out hard conversations and they'll be looking at him. And that's the conversation that has happened. So you need to sell the idea to them and they will embrace it.
Many thanks there, Mr. African Farmer, rather, for sharing your thoughts. It seems to me that there's hope and light in the agric sector.
A lot of hope. People will make money in the next 4 years.
Let's hope that this hope will be a good strategy and will yield results.